You're watching Cannabis Planet.
My name is David Douglas. I'm a former U.S. Coast Guardsman. I'm 28 years old and I served roughly 5.5 years in the Coast Guard. I chose the Coast Guard to serve in, among other services, because they are the Department of Homeland Security. After September 11th, I felt it was my duty to protect my country and family. I drove boats for the Coast Guard, did law enforcement on the water, in the marina. My first unit was the Coast Guard cutter Sherman, counter-drug and immigrant interdiction ship. I served diligently and honorably for 3 years on the Coast Guard cutter Sherman. I was awarded multiple awards for my performance and dedication to the service. I was congratulated with outstanding marks and sent to my next unit, an anti-terrorism unit known as MSST Seattle. I was very proud to be at this unit. My job was to safely and secure the ports of Seattle so that Americans could rest easy that things were not coming harmfully into our ports. Until one day I was fatally ill, it changed my life. In 2007, I came to work ill with flu-like symptoms. The Coast Guard diagnosed me with flu and sent me home for the day. The next morning I awoke and I had bloody lips, bruises all over my body. They diagnosed me with a rare, sometimes fatal blood disorder, TTP. It's where your body doesn't have the ability to clot. If you don't have the ability to clot, your internal organs bleed, your brain, you lose consciousness, you bleed out until you're dead. I was literally bleeding to death instantly. The treatment that they gave me, the medications were prednisone, which is steroids. They gave me a high dose, 80 milligrams a day, which doctors tell me that's a very high dose. After being discharged from Madigan Army Hospital, I got sick within 2 days. The Coast Guard pursued to give me the best medical care by sending me to Swedish Hospital in Seattle, Washington. I met a cancer patient who seemed to be dealing well with their illness. I asked them how they cope with such a thing, and they told me that cannabis helps them cope with all the side effects of medications and treatments, vomiting, nausea, headaches, pain, all the things I was experiencing. I was in a life or death situation twice. I decided to try cannabis instead of the harmful drugs that they were giving me. I discontinued use of all the harmful medications and used cannabis for a period of 3 months. Right away I was sleeping, eating, I was feeling happier. I began to do moderate exercise again. I was able to get back in shape. I was reporting to the doctors at Swedish and my blood work was showing normal continuously. I couldn't tell anybody about my cannabis use because it was against the military and the federal government. The Coast Guard, learning that I was normal, they decided to call me back to active duty. While at a radiation school, I started to feel ill again, and I called my unit corpsman, and they told me to report to Swedish Hospital as soon as I returned to Seattle, which in 2 days I did. I decided to self-medicate again. I used cannabis for my problems. I was experiencing nausea and headaches and vomiting and all kinds of unimaginable pain. All I can tell you is that cannabis saved my life on multiple occasions. I returned once again to work. I was doing tactical training on our small boats. 3 days into training, I discovered that I had a small amount of marijuana that was left in my civilian suitcase. I was experiencing some side effects. I felt that was from my TTP. I had blood in my stool. I had headaches and nausea, vomiting. I decided to use the marijuana while at school in a very cautious manner. I used very small, minute amount, and it was able to help me eat and sleep while there to maintain my integrity. My roommate smelled something and went into my closet and went into my suitcase, and he found a pop can pipe that I had turned into a pipe from a Red Bull can to use this marijuana. The Marines entered my room, quickly arrested me, and didn't know what to do. I returned home to Seattle, Washington. That's when I learned I was being brought up on multiple charges. I was being sent to federal court-martial, and I didn't know what to do. I was stressed, panicked. I emptied my savings account on a lawyer to try to help me. I felt that I should have been medically discharged way before this had happened. I tried to express to my command that I meant no harm against the Coast Guard. I used cannabis on my own for self-preservation. In a life or death situation, I was at wit's end and I had no other alternatives I saw at that time. After telling them that, they decided to proceed with the court-martial. The court-martial put me through immense stress, and the findings of the court-martial was that due to using marijuana while acting as a federal boarding officer, I was to be given a bad conduct discharge. I'm criminally and punitively discharged from the military. I can't use them as a reference for a job. I was reduced in rank, sent out the door with my college money taken from me. I was sent out with a debt to the Coast Guard because they made me pay back monies that was paid to me in bonuses. So right away I was sent out the door with no job, sent to collections, no school benefits, unable to obtain unemployment because the Coast Guard postponed my official paperwork that stated I was out. Cannabis saved my life, and it was the only alternative that I seen necessary at the time out of self-preservation. I ask for the government's mercy or anyone out there that can help this cause, that cannabis should be legalized for a natural, safe medication. I use natural foods in my life. I don't use harmful chemicals in my food, so why would I want that in my medication? A shipmate of mine was brought up on charges for recreational cocaine use. He was discharged without punitive punishment. He was able to keep his benefits. I, on the other hand, was punished federally for cannabis, which is legal to medicate in the state where I was serving and the state where I'm from, which is Washington State. I'm offered the same rights that other people are. It's humanity, and I saved my life through cannabis. Marijuana was a safe alternative, and I think I did what I needed to do to live. And I wish the Coast Guard and other government agencies would see that as the same and take my story as consideration for overturning my bad conduct discharge.
I am Margot Bauer, and you are watching Cannabis Planet.